It's Danny Flexen here for Seconds Out. Delighted to be joined by my good friend and Hall of Fame promoter Frank Warren out in Riyadh. Unfortunately, I'm not out in Riyadh. Kind of wish I was with the weather in England at the moment. But Frank, I saw you arrive yesterday. It was yesterday, wasn't it? At the airport, getting your bouquet as you arrived, like any visiting dignitary would. I was thinking it's about time you got your flowers, as it happens. What's it like to be back in Riyadh?
Well, I thought I might have to wait until I croak it before anyone sends me any flowers. But yeah, I was delighted. Yeah, it's nice. The weather's really lovely. Everybody's good. And we start doing the hard work from our perspective today. We've got lots of stuff going on. We've got the red carpet arrivals. And it's the start of a heavy-duty week of promoting the show, which is a really competitive card. I mean, it's a very, very competitive card and an intriguing main event. So I'm sort of looking forward to it.
When you say the hard work starts now, and then the next thing you mention is red carpet arrivals, I'm not so sure people are going to have sympathy for you, but I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun.
They never have any sympathy, so I'm not looking for sympathy afterwards. No, it's late nights, and we're obviously out here, and we're talking about the future and other things that we're doing. So, it's nice, it's good, it's being around boxing people and talking about the fights that we want to make and all the things we want to do. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Now, talking of that, there was a recent interview with Eddie Hearn where he was talking about Raymond Ford's great victory, come from behind victory at the weekend. And he mentioned the possibility of him unifying against Nick Ball in the Matchroom versus Queensberry show if Nick Ball gets the job done on Friday against Ray Vargas. What do you make of that? Have you already started talking about that?
No. I haven't seen him yet. I know George speaks to him regularly, but I haven't seen him. I think I'll be seeing him today. Nick's in a tough fight with Vargas. Let's get through that one first. Once he gets through that, then we can make some decisions. But whilst we're out here, obviously we're going to be talking about the 5v5. We've got to decide the weight categories yet. And once we decide what they are, then we can put together some interesting and competitive fights.
What sort of level should we expect? Because I think initially we thought it's just going to be you guys on the show. Now the main event is Bivol Beterbiev, which is an incredible fight. Does that mean we should expect more kind of domestic level fights from the 5v5?
No, it depends what the weights are, and where we go. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? We've got good heavyweights all the way down. We've got a very strong pool of talent to pick from, depending on the weight, on where we go to weights. But I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun, and obviously both sides are very, very competitive, and the fighters themselves know that they'll be in fights that will be pretty even money fights.
So could we potentially see Anthony Yard, Callum Smith on the same bill as Bivol Beterbiev?
I don't know. I think that Anthony's going in a totally different direction, but you never know. It depends. We'll see what happens with the fights that we're talking to him about at the moment when I get back from here.
And Eddie mentioned before about this transfer window. You'll be able to bring in fighters to represent Queensberry just for that night. Would you consider that? I mean, you've got a pretty deep stable anyway.
I doubt very much if we'll do that. We got, as you say, we've got a good stable of fighters, a good roster to pick from. So we'll try and do it how we should do it, which is us against them.
And let's talk about this week. We talked about Nick Ball there, but one of the most intriguing fights on the show on Friday is Jiang, who you guys work with, against Joseph Parker, who's coming off probably the best win of his career. How do you kind of weigh that one up, and what's the future for Jiang should he retain his WBO interim belt?
Look, if he comes through, it's a tough fight, by the way, for both of them. But if he comes through it, then he remains the WBO interim champion. And once Tyson and Usyk get it on May the 18th, there'll be a big. I think there'll be a situation over the coming months after that where some mandatories will be ordered and will happen, and we will see where we go. But he's certainly in the mix, and if he does the job on Joe Parker, then he's really up there. It's for both these guys. It's funny, they got a common opponent in Joe Joyce, where Joe done a job at the end of the day on Joe Parker, and Zhang done a job on Joe Joyce. So styles, as they say, make fights and so forth. And this is going to be a very, very interesting fight. I'll tell you what, though, it's competitive and it'll be a good fight.
Given Parker's only ranked one slot below Jiang in the WBO rankings, is there a chance that if that belt becomes vacant, they'll just upgrade Jiang rather than making him fight for the belt?
Well, that's normally what would happen if you're the interim champion. Whoever's the interim champion, the belt becomes vacant, they become champion.
Is that something you can help to kind of push along? Because you obviously work with Fury. If he beats Usyk, he'll have the WBO belt. And you've usually got a good relationship with them as well.
Yeah, well, I've always maintained a good relationship with the WBO, with all the governing bodies, but certainly with the WBO. I mean, I've got, they've been very good, I think, to me as a promoter and also to British boxing over the years. You think of all the different WBO champions and the British guys that have done exceptionally well being their champions and made a lot of money from holding those titles. So, yeah, whatever it takes to make things work. But, I mean, we're not looking to just make fights for the sake of them. They've got to be meaningful and mean something. That's where we're heading from, and that's heading with. And that's really, I think, what's happened in Riyadh and with the Riyadh season and these excellency, that we are making meaningful fights now.
What's it like that the main event on this show is obviously a Matchroom fighter against a former MMA superstar, but the only world title fights on the bill are with your fighters?
But it's an intriguing fight with AJ, obviously because of what Ngannou did in his last fight against Tyson, where he came to the party and, having been written off by everybody as not, basically, this is a total mismatch, etc., proved that he was certainly a much better boxer than people give him credit for. And what I was surprised at is that people didn't take into consideration his competitive and his heart going into the fight, and he showed how competitive he is. So AJ's got a tough fight, and it's going to be an intriguing fight in as much that, is AJ going to stand toe-to-toe with him? And is it going to be a shootout, or is he going to get behind his jab and move and fight maybe like he did again in the second fight against Ruiz? Who knows what he's going to bring to the party? He's got a new trainer now in Ben Davison. Ben's no slouch. He'll be looking to charge his man out and charge his man up. And sometimes when fighters go to new trainers or different trainers, they get a little bit of motivation, as we will see. But what for me, and I've said it a few times now, what for me I'm interested in is what Ngannou has learned from his first pro fight and how he's going to adapt now and what he's going to do. He's in a position where he knows what AJ is all about. He's seen him fight. He's seen lots and lots of his fights, seen his strengths and his weaknesses. And where Tyson didn't have it, AJ has the good fortune of seeing Ngannou in action, in the boxing ring. So we know what basically what he's like. And as I say, we know he's a competitor. So I think it's going to be a really good fight. I don't think they go the distance. I think they're big guys. I think they're punchers. And I think whoever lands will take the other guy out, because they're both big punchers.
I'm going to ask you in a minute who that guy is. But before we do that, how frustrating is it that you were criticised in some quarters when Tyson fought Ngannou because of his lack of experience, and people called it a mismatch and so on? Not as many people saying that about him against AJ now because of his performance.
I've got to be honest. The couple of the Sunday newspapers I see, there wasn't even reported in the fight. There was no preview of it, and one just give a paragraph, which I thought was ridiculous. It's like, I think in some ways it's disrespectful to Ngannou, because he is a competitor. He's not a YouTuber. He's not a guy who's an influencer or whatever they call him and all that crap. He's a fighter. He is a warrior. That's what he's done. Look at his backstory. He's been a warrior since he's been born, striving to succeed, and that tells you a lot about him. And he's in with a guy who can't afford to lose in AJ. AJ gets beat by this fella. I mean, where does AJ go? So both of them, it's on the line for both these fellas. Both of them on the line. It's this very important fight for both of them, and that pressure itself is enough. That is enough to get the best out of them. You know, it's not just let's just knock. This is like a warming up fight, knock someone over, on to the next one. This ain't that. This is a fight. These guys have pride. These guys will come and fight each other and give everything they've got. Because if they don't give everything they've got, then it's going to be the end for one of them. It'd be the end. I think it'd be the end, excuse me, of their career at the top echelon.
And you just said there, where does AJ go if he loses to Ngannou? Let me flip that round to you. Where does he go? Does he retire if he loses to Ngannou?
Well, again, it depends how you lose a fight. Look, he's no slouch. You know, Ngannou, based upon the performance he had with Tyson, you give him a shot against anybody in the top 10, and there's a few in there I fancy him to beat, to be quite honest. So, as I say, he's no slouch. It's you know, it's how you lose the fight. But going into the fight, it all points to being a cracker.
So, if AJ gets chinned, and you did say you don't see the fight going the distance, whoever wins, if AJ gets knocked out, what does he do then? Can he rebuild?
Again, it depends how he loses. If he's in a very, very close fight, he gets clipped, he gets clipped. It's not the end of the world. We've seen that happen with guys, and guys come back from that. That'd be the interesting scenario. The general consensus may be that he will be, but that's not how it works out. That's not how it goes.
Yeah. So if AJ can still rebuild regardless of what happens, let's do brass tacks. Who do you fancy in the fight? Gun to your head, metaphorically speaking.
I've got to be honest, I can see a case for both of them. I really can. And it's not sitting on the fence. The fact of the matter is, you look at them, you know, AJ is a boxer, and this is his game. Same as Tyson was a boxer. As I've said, this fella's a dangerous sod, and he can box a bit, and he can punch. And AJ has been caught. He's been stopped in fights. So if he gets caught, can he take the power? Can he recover? Has he got the wherewithal to outbox this guy? Is he smart enough to outbox this guy? I don't know. We're going to find out on Friday night.
But if you had to put your last pound on it,
I swear to you, I haven't made my mind up yet. I want to see both of them weigh in. I want to, look at them and see them both weigh in, and then I'll make my decision. At this stage, you've got to say you would fancy AJ to be the favourite because of all the things I've just said. But this fella's motivated.
So we've got Fury Usyk May the 18th. How likely is it that the winners of those two fights face each other? Maybe not next, but at some point.
I think down the road it will happen. I mean, look, if Ngannou wins, it's a natural fight rematch. Tyson comes through. It's a natural rematch anyway if he wins. So whatever the result is, if AJ comes through and Tyson wins, it's a great fight that everybody'd like to see. But there are rematch clauses around, and they're going to have to be dealt with. That was how the fights were made, and that was the terms of the deals. But these fights will be happening. But, there's a lot of... contrary to what everybody says, there's a lot of big fights been made over the last year, where we've had unified champions, like Crawford, unified champion, Inoue, lots of guys out there doing that. So there's others I've not mentioned. Good, it's a really good fight. It's been a great year for boxing, a great year, and it started off this year in great style. Some fantastic fights coming up.
How would you feel if Anthony Joshua goes through Francis Ngannou, does a significantly better performance than Fury did? Are you happy because it sells Fury against Joshua, or are you disappointed because it paints Fury in a lesser light?
Not at all. I don't think about it. I just think if he comes through, then obviously that would make that fight even more of a hot ticket. And when it happens, I mean, there's going to be a lot more at stake. A lot of people fancy Tyson, including myself, big time to win that fight. That may change people's opinions and make it a bigger and better fight. And it should be a bigger and better fight if that happens.
We interviewed Sam Jones last week, and he predicted that we wouldn't see either Tyson Fury or Anthony Joshua fight in the UK again, simply because the money on offer at the moment in Saudi Arabia is huge. Do you go along with that, or do you think we could see a homecoming for either fighter, or even them fighting in the UK?
We will see what happens after these fights.
But
This really depends on the outcomes of the outcomes of the fights.
But if that fight does take place, is there any chance of it taking place in the UK, or is it almost certainly going to be in Riyadh?
Yeah, for those fights to be no more than we would be having, like it had been a year ago or 2 years ago, we'd have been saying the outcome of the fights they would be on in Vegas with a casino pulling up all the money for it. It's the same situation.
Vegas was obviously in position for a long time. How long, you've been in the game forever, you know your stuff. How long do you see this Middle East dominance lasting?
Look, HE and the team, all the team and ourselves, everybody's got the bit between their teeth. They're enjoying this. Things are happening. And I think it will continue. That every time we come out here, we have talks about the future and so forth. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things happening that people are going to enjoy. But that doesn't mean there's not going to be boxing taking place in the UK. We've got some big things that we're working on, some great fights. I mean, we're working at the moment on a big homecoming fight, hopefully a big title fight for Nathan Heaney at Stoke Football Ground in June. Joe Joyce wants to get back in the picture. We look at Joe maybe, and I don't know, maybe Joe Joyce against Wilder. Be an interesting fight. Both guys at the moment are out there. They're on the fringes of it now because of their respective losses. Can one of them get back in the swing again? I don't know. So there's a lot of good things happening. We've got Daniel Dubois. We've got to get him up and running. We've got lots of our young kids. We've got a fantastic show on in the Midlands next weekend, not this weekend, the weekend after. Some really good fights on there. So Anthony Yard, as we spoke about early, I'm hoping we can get close to doing this Buatsi fight. There's lots and lots of big fights to be made. So big fights, big events here in Saudi and Riyadh, big events in the UK, and there'll be big events going on in the UK, and there'll be big events going on in around the world in places like Japan within UE. Boxing is hot, very, very hot at the moment, very hot.
And the kind of current situation with yourself and Matchroom, do you see that friendliness, if that's what we're calling it, lasting beyond the Saudi shows?
Look, we've got some sort of working relationship going at the moment, and let's hope that continues because it's good and we enjoy it. More importantly, we've got the TV companies working together with us as well. So it's a win-win-win at the moment.
Well, talking of that, you've often been critical, I think it's fair to say, of DAZN in the past. I think you termed it dead zone at one point, quite a while ago now, but they're broadcasting all the Saudi events in conjunction with Sky Sports, TNT, and so on. How do you feel about that now? Because you're the lead promoter on these events, you don't work with DAZN generally. How do you feel about them showing all these events?
Well, we're working, with all the promoters on these shows, and that's what it's all about. Regarding my comments about DAZN, they were in response to comments that were made about our show. So that's it. That's all knockabout fun and whatever. At the end of the day, I'm looking at the positives now, and the positives are that everyone's working together, and that's all anybody should be worried about. Past is the past. Now is what matters, and hopefully what we do in the future.
Glad to hear it. And talking of the future, we talked about the winners of the two big heavyweight clashes coming together towards the end of the year, maybe, or early next year. How does that affect the rest of the heavyweight division? Because you've got the likes of Jiang, Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce, Moses Itauma obviously on his way up. How does it affect them that there's this kind of logjam, if you like, at the very top of the division?
Well, look, hopefully it will sort itself out. The IBF, I am sure, are going to try and force the issue for the winner of the fight to have a mandatory against the number one, Berkovic. We'll see what happens with that. Now, that may be Joshua if he wins. Maybe Joe Parker. Maybe Joshua if he wins. I don't know if it'd be Ngannou. It may put him in this push. But the next one in is Daniel Dubois, and we would love to make Daniel against Hrgovic. That's a great fight. That's a great fight.
So that could be for the vacant IBF. You'll have Jiang with the WBO.
Or it could be for the vacant. It could be for the vacant, or it could be an eliminator. It could be any of those things. But what it can be is a great fight, and that's all that matters.
Have you spoken to Hrgovic's team about him potentially taking an eliminator and maybe some money or whatever? So,
well, they're signed up, and at the moment, as I say, we're all working to make fights happen. So, whilst I'm out there this week, I'm sure we're going to talk about a lot of things, and I hope some of them will be sorted out and reach some agreements.
So there is still a chance that the second the second Fury Usyk fight could be for undisputed.
It could be, but we'll see. We'll see. I mean, look, where we're going to be, whoever wins this fight, and I believe it'll be Tyson, he is going to be the undisputed, whether he's holding 4 belts or not. At the end of the day, he's the governor. He's the boss. He's the one who's done it, and everybody will know that. And you know. And it's nothing unusual that's not happened over the years. We've seen it before where the titles have been unified, then they're fragmented and so forth. But everybody knows who the best is. And the winner of the fight on the 18th will be the best. He'll be the undisputed.
And talking of heavyweights, there was some breaking news yesterday that Dillian Whyte has been quote unquote cleared to continue his boxing career. It seems to be he's been cleared by the Texas State Athletic Commission, with whom he holds a license. Doesn't have a Board of Control license at the moment. I'm not sure how keen the board would be to let him fight in the UK on a foreign license, so we'll have to see how that all pans out. But what did you make of the news?
Well, I only heard about it last night, and to be honest, I don't know. I mean, if UCAD he doesn't hold a board license, so UCAD would be in that position. But if VADA have cleared him, if they've said that he's clear, if they've said, I know they don't have disciplinary hearings, but if they're saying that it's clear, then it's clear. I don't know if they are saying that or whether Texas is saying it, but at the end of the day, it'll all pan out by the end of the week, and we'll all know what the position is. Look, he wants to fight on, and and we will see what happens.
Would you work with him? I know you've talked about it in the past.
If he's clear, yes. If there's any ambiguity about it, no.
What would you need to see? Would it be a board thing? Would he need to get through UCAD and the board for you to be happy?
I'd like to see what actually, what the position is at the moment. That's what I'd like to see. I haven't seen it, so I can't really make that comment.
How do you feel about all this stuff in general? It's similar to the Conor Benn case in that there is a lot of ambiguity.
I think the whole situation is badly handled. It's wrong, and all we can do. Promoters. We're not the police. We don't police the sport. That's what the boxers, the managers, the trainers, and the promoters, and everybody involved in sport pay commissions to do, or governing bodies. That's what we pay them to do. That's their role. That's their job. And at the moment, it's not that people are being caught out or being found to be tested positive, but it's not working because it should be cut and dry. It should be very clear what the position is, and it's not. And that needs to be sorted out. And I said it, and I've worked with boxers, who've failed test, come back after serving their ban. It's like going to prison. You go to prison, you served your sentence, you're now free to go on and make your life and make the best of your life. And I think that should be the same thing. But I think that the penalties for PEDs, cheating, whatever you want to call it, should be very, very, very severe. Very severe because of the nature of our sport.
It seems, at least at the moment, like the Board of Control here in the UK are being very stringent about these issues. But maybe there's a lot of other bodies out there. There's other markets that people can fight in now. That seems to be part of the problem.
But you've got, it's not, I mean, you had that. I mean, I used Danny Williams as a case. The Board of Control advised him to stop boxing, and they were quite correct, I believe, to do that. Danny's a lovely fella, but that's why you need a commission, because if it weren't, it'd be like a complete free-for-all. these guys, some of these guys, because they want to fight. Jimmy McDonald years ago was the same. He wanted to fight, even though he was, told not to. He's saying, "Can you get me a fight in another country and whatever?" And I love Jim, and I wouldn't, we wouldn't get involved in that. But they will do it, and it can happen, and that's why we need to somehow. That's the one problem that we need really to deal with more than anything. That we get some cohesion behind all the governing bodies, all the sanctioning bodies, that they deal with these things as one, and not that it didn't work for them, so I'm going somewhere else now. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Frank,
I mean, you get boxers sometimes who don't want to pay the commissions, don't want to pay the board tax or the various governing body tax. They don't want to do that because yet they want to fight for the titles. They want that protection. So, they'll go to another jurisdiction, which they're entitled to do. But when it comes down to this situation with drugs, it needs to be strongly policed. There's no other way to do it.
Just before I let you go, there's obviously been some issues in recent times with Tyson and Talksport. I don't know if we're calling it a feud at this point, but certainly not each other's biggest fans. What's the status of that now, and what's your relationship with them as well?
Sorry, what's the status? With regarding what? Just
with Talksport generally, because obviously them and Fury have had their back and forth.
Talksport broadcast most of our shows.
Yeah,
they've done that. There's certain things have been said that I certainly have taken umbrage to, especially when there are things that are being said that are totally ridiculous, and people should know better in what they're saying. And then, then other guys on the station defending him and saying that it wasn't said, when I can see that's an ear and that's an ear. I'm 72 years of age and I'm not an idiot, and I can listen and I know what people are saying. It's frustrating. But look, Liam, the boss, I get on very, very well with him. I spoke to him last week. We'd like things to work out, but some of the things that have been said have been I watched a Netflix documentary before I came out. The one about the Day of Reckoning.
Yeah,
there's a documentary, right? And on there, the commentator says on there that they're using footage of the fight as an extract. The atmosphere is really buzzing and whatever, which it was. Okay, then we're told that the atmosphere weren't all that for the previous show, and it just wasn't the case. It doesn't matter which way it wants to be dressed up. It wasn't okay. They're all good fights. Tyson against Ngannou, whether you liked it or not, going into the fight, it was a bloody good fight. Everybody stayed with it to the end because you wondered what was going to happen. It was a good fight. Afterwards, how many people actually said, who slagged the fight off, came out and said, especially on Talksport, a couple of people on it, never come out and agreed with that. Adam Catterall was on there who slagged it off before the fight. He slagged it off, in my opinion, because Ngannou had left UFC, who he does work with. And then after the fight, never, they said, "Oh, well, actually, it was a decent, it was a good watch." And then, they've gone on a couple of times since saying things. So, but that's their opinion. They're all experts. What do I know? I know nothing. I've done nothing. I mean, they all know how the sport works. They're all, they're not just experts on boxing. They're experts on every single sport. And good luck to them.
If Tyson isn't keen to give them access or to do stuff with them as a result,
Tyson doesn't want to deal with it. End of story. That's his prerogative. Look, he doesn't. Tyson had 3 books go to #1. He's had the most. I think it's the most watched British show on Netflix last year. Last year, Wembley, 94,000, broke all gate box office records for any event, not boxing, any event, fastest selling event. Spurs, there'd be no one there. He's only fighting Derek Chisora for the third time, placed 60,000 tickets. So whatever way you want to look at it, and I know it's hard for some people, he is actually popular. He's quite a popular guy. And unfortunately, it don't sit right with some people for whatever reason. So be it. But the people who buy the tickets, the people who want to watch, continue to do so. They want to read about him. They want to watch him, and even if it's not in boxing, whether you like the documentaries or the reality TV or not, they watch it. So he doesn't need them. He's past that. He's past that. He's paid his dues. And like he said to me, I'll tell you exactly what he says. Frank, he said, whatever they want to pay, I'll pay double and give the money to charity for them not to have it.
Jesus. That's pretty entrenched then.
So and what am I going to do? I'll try, to start with, I'll be honest, try to get it sorted. But when it keeps going on and on, like, this video of Tyson's cut, how do we know it was real? There was no time. I mean, you heard all that crap. I mean, what sort of stupid idiot would even say that when the fella's walking around with 11, 15 stitches in his eye? How did he think it happened? For the money that he's getting paid for this fight, he doesn't want it to happen. The hard camp, all the sparring partners that were shipped in because he was training out here, all the cost of all that, he didn't want it to happen. Do me a favour. I mean, it's just beyond. Sometimes you wonder how these people get in position to even comment on the sport, which they obviously don't understand. So I'm not going to. I can't. I'm not going to go and fight that battle on somebody's behalf, because why would I? I'm not doing that. In the meantime, if they want to do other events with us, if it suits, we'll do them. If it don't, it don't. But that's Tyson where he stands at the moment. Will it change in the future? I have no idea. But at the moment, you don't even want to mention their name. It's a shame, but that's what it is. And then then you get all the you get, like, no doubt on the strength of this, there'll be some more crap will be said, and it is what it is. But I'm not there. I'm not there going to bat for them. All I care about is what people should be celebrating at the moment is what is happening here. What is happening here, what is happening in world boxing, not only just here, around the world. The good fights we're getting on in the UK. We had some good shows last year in the UK, some great shows here, even better shows coming up. We're seeing the unification. We're getting the 5-on-5. You're getting the big fight between Berbatov and Bivol. All these fights all going on. Do us a favour, give boxing a break. Keep slagging off boxing. I mean, my God, some of the crap that's going on in other sports at the moment, and like we get was it one? I think Rick Broadbent called it the sleaziest of sports. Sleaziest of sports. I mean, how many boxers have gone to prison for throwing fights, like people who've thrown races or fixed cricket matches or have beaten their opponents up in the ice skating, or they footballers who've gone to prison, dodgy football. How many of that's going on? And we're a sleazy sport. Why? It's just it beggars belief sometimes. The guys that fight and that win, and what goes on that side, right? It's a business. It's a business that's conducted with blue chip companies from around the world, TV companies, blue chip stadiums that are owned by big blue chip companies. And it just, sometimes I'll listen to some of this stuff and think to myself, boxing is, whatever way you want to look at it, is the noblest of sports. And that's what it is. And when these guys, they may say certain things before fights, hype up things, may feel what they're saying or whatever. But when it gets down to it, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty in that ring, there is nobody like two boxers in the ring. There's no sport like it at its best. And as far as I'm concerned, I really I get very, very disappointed when it's people try and use it as an easy target.
I agree. Now, before I let you go, let's end on a more light-hearted note. Hopefully, put a smile back on your face. Big John Fury, Cole Froch. Which team are you on?
Well, I've got to be on the John Fury team, haven't I?
Why? Because he's there.
Well, no. At least you've got the sense to know that the world is round and not flat.
There you go. Very good logic there.
And
Frank.
there is a NASA. And there is a NASA.
Yeah.
There is a NASA. And there's also an Indian space program. There's a Chinese space program. There's a Russian one. And there was a Japanese one. Unless they're all colluding with each other to fool people, there's not really landing on the moon.
Yeah, the space race was a whole.
The space race,
right.
yeah, all those. As I said a couple of weeks ago to someone, my grandson went to NASA, to Florida, was on a school trip, and believe you me, it's real. It's real. And what I do, I might get him to send Cole the photographs.
He'll say they're photoshopped. I wouldn't bother.
Well, of course he will.
Good
Never
stuff.
mind.
Frank, really appreciate it. Have a good time tonight at the red carpet event, and then the hard work starts.
It's not, the hard work's not done till the two guys get in the ring and come through on Friday. But it's going to be bloody. It's going to be a really good competitive card with some intriguing matchups, and I promise you, some really, really, really good fights. Great stuff, Frank. Really appreciate it, mate. And yeah, have a great week. I will, and you, Dan. All the best, mate. Take care. Bye.